Just recently we reviewed one or two different items here on AAR. Well, today is most definitely going to be something different. Very different. In fact, it's from an Italian manufacturer, and it's the Chiappa Rhino. Ciao e benvenuto su AAR in Onda, which, as most of you will know to be very poor Italian for hello and welcome to AAR on Air. New studio. Yes, we have a real treat for you today in the really funky designed Rhino replica revolver from Chiappa. Let's start with the walk around, shall we, to let you cast your eyes over this really fabulous revolver, which must be one of the most radical revolvers I've seen. The first thing to point out here is there is a lot of weight to this rather designer looking gun. Well, it is Italian after all, so it's going to look cool. It'll probably drive its car far too fast wearing sunglasses in a bronze tan, and will probably have your wife or girlfriend in the passenger seat as well. Anyway, that's enough stereotyping of the Italians. It weighs in at 1.3 kilograms or 2.5 pounds and is pretty much all metal apart from the wood effect grip. And when I say metal, I don't mean some cheap, loosely classed as metal. This is the real McCoy, and beautifully made. It does have more than a passing resemblance to a futuristic film prop about it. From the front, the first thing to highlight is the cutouts, where you would ordinarily expect the barrel to be. But on this radical design, the 5-inch barrel is along the bottom and fires from the BB loaded shells from the bottom up. This is starting to feel like some designers have taken over the factory, and that's no bad thing in my books. Whilst it isn't reinventing the wheel, it is daring to take out the spokes, so to speak. The top has an open and really meaty front sight. There are lots of square shapes happening mixed in with those curvy holes we mentioned. Below this is the square body holding the barrel, which is recessed for effect and has a really useful rail underneath to finish it all off at the front. And this is quite a long item and would allow you to hang most things from it, such as a laser, torch, or a Versace two-piece. Moving back down the gun, you come to the rear sights, which are fully adjustable, both for elevation and windage. Below this is the unusual hexagonal cylinder, which holds the 6 rounds of imitation 357 Magnum shells, which take a rear loading pellet or BB into each one, which adds to the feel and ownership pleasure of this even more. Below this is the really broad all-metal trigger, which does all the work of rotating that cylinder and cocking the hammer to release, which naturally makes it slightly heavy. To the rear of the trigger blade is an ambidextrous cutaway for your trigger finger to add to the comfort when using this. This only leaves the rear to look at and includes the trigger matching broad hammer, which when used rotates the cylinder and cocks the gun, revealing a raised red indicator to show you're now live, ready for the final release with the trigger. There is a safety behind this which locks the hammer and prevents you from cocking the gun, and in doing so locks the trigger. To the side of this hammer is the cylinder release, which allows you to drop open the cylinder to reveal the 6 shells inside. These again are nicely recessed, enhancing that quality feel, leaving you needing to use the shell removing probe or risk breaking your nails, and of course that would never do. As I said, these shells are then loaded from the rear with your BB of choice before you then return them to the cylinder, and of course this needs to be done with the customary flick for effect. Now at this point it's worth noting that if you can load a 4.5mm BB into the back of the shells, then why not a 4.5mm pellet? Now I realise the barrel is smoothbore and not rifle, but we're not here to win any target competitions, and it may well reduce the chance of ricocheting. And I'll check out the target work later to see what the effect is. The next thing, I love that, is to load it up with CO2. This is done by removing the left hand grip to reveal the opening for your 12 gram CO2. Slot it in, then tighten up with the aid of the hex key that is built into the half of the grip. Return your grip back to the gun, click it in place, and you're ready to go. Now, really the next thing to do is to check out the power levels, because the claim is somewhat vague at less than 7.5 joules on the box, which for a CO2 pistol seems quite a big ask to actually reach those giddy heights. So, over to the chrono. Let's start with the standard steel BB, shall we? That weigh in at 5.37 grains. And they saw 420 feet per second, which is 2.1 foot-pounds or 2.85 joules. From here, let's try the power output with pellets, shall we? Using the standard 8.44 grain JSBs, it saw 355 feet per second, which is 2.36 foot-pounds or 3.2 joules, which is quite respectable for such a pistol. Whilst I was on the chrono, I thought I'd drop in some lightweight alloys. On this occasion, I was going to use the BSA Green Stars at a featherweight 6.64 grains. These saw 350 feet per second, which is around 1.81 foot-pounds or 2.45 joules. The lack of difference between normal pellets and the lighter alloys is not as big as I thought it would be. And it just doesn't seem to like the alloy pellets at all, really. But it was quite happy with the lead pellets, and personally I'd feed it on a steady diet of lead pellets rather than the BBs, but it's quite happy with either. So, no really we're near the 7.5 joules, and as typical Italians, they do have a tendency to exaggerate the possibilities. Stereotyping again, sorry about that. Back to the cappuccino. So you can see this isn't really a hunting item, which I never expected it to be. These are about fun and ownership. What about target work then? Well, let's get it out to 10 metres outside in between the August raindrops. Steel BBs first then. Now let's try some pellets and see what the difference is. Well, really pretty good, to be honest, and I'm absolutely convinced it will be better with a suitable laser fitted, because I do struggle with open sights these days. But what fun to use, and I was happy enough with those results, especially with these old eyes. So far then, thumbs up all round. What about any downsides? Well, you've really got to be picky to find fault with this, believe me. But if I was being that picky, I would say it would benefit from a set of real wood grips. And some people wouldn't like the white markings on the right-hand side. But you could always rectify both of those things if you have a certain skill set. But even with those possible negatives, the positives massively outweigh them in my opinion. And I feel the look, design and the build quality more than makes up for them. The price then? Well, retail prices currently start at around £160 for this black and wood effect grip, but there are several different designs and colours available. This basic price for something of this build quality really isn't a lot of money in my mind when you compare it to some of the other pistols and revolvers out there. This is really different, and as I always admire any company who is prepared to break the mould and do something radical. Oh, and anyone who knows me also knows that Italy is one of my favourite European destinations, and Mrs. AAR and I love it. And no, she doesn't accept rides in Italian cars. This really is one of those guns that is difficult to get over the looks, the feel and the beauty of it really in a film. You really need to go and get your hands on this, and believe you me, when you do, it just brings a smile to your face and it gets you reaching into your pockets to try and find out if you can afford one. They're worth it. It's a beautiful, beautiful gun. I love it. Well, that's it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review. If so, please give us the usual thumbs up, share, subscribe, and of course, hit the alarm bell and join in the fun with this little lot. And I'd be really interested what your opinions are for this. Thanks to Mrs. AAR for running the merchandise. And as always, a big thank you to Vector Air, who are constantly trying to find new things for me to review. And of course, for you guys to enjoy. There's more new stuff to come, and of course a big thank you to you for watching. Stay safe and shoot safe, and hopefully I'll see you next week. Bye for now, or should I say ciao, arrivederci.